is Heart of the Artist, which is what I'm all about. I'm all about getting your emotion into your work, or into your client's work, getting their emotion into it. There's two different ways to look at emotion, and we're going to talk about that. But I put a lot of what I feel and what I think into my work. And that's why I use a lot of things other than just people, because you can't always put your own emotions onto your clients. It's more important to get their emotions into their work. I don't think anybody wants to come to me for family portraits and for me to tell them, hey, I'm feeling blue today. Do you mind if we just demonstrate that in your portraits? So I use a lot of other things, namely mostly twigs, trees, leaves, flowers, those kind of things, to kind of get my emotion out into my work. And I am kind of changing my own, I'm rebranding Toni. So most people know me as Toni Harryman, and Harryman is the last name of my second husband, who went off to prison and was not a very nice person. And I would love to get that changed someday, but until I do, um, and then I have Johnson Photography, which is the name of my first husband, who I was married to for 24 years. And after you have a business that you've built for, more than 2 decades, you don't really change that. So everyone here in my town knows me as Toni Johnson. And, it gets so confusing sometimes. And I have signed my art for the last 4 years simply as Toni Marie. And I'm kind of just changing, I know that now people can just call themselves whatever they want, and so I'm doing that. I'm calling myself what I want. So I'm kind of going by Toni Marie, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So let's see how I go from the next slide. Okay. So living life as an artist is a practice. You're either engaging in the practice or you're not. So this book, Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, is one of the best books I've read in ages. If you haven't bought it yet, you really should. I mean, I normally devour a book in a day. When I get a book, I just read through it all, set it aside, and I'm done. And I'm piecing this out and only letting myself do a chapter a day. And they're really short chapters, but they're so full of really good stuff that I really want it to sink in. So love this book. It's just full of all this good stuff. But when you think about it, if you're an artist, you're just, everything you do is tied to that. The feelings that you have, the practice of it, the learning of it. It's just a constant little circle that you're going in, learning, practice, living as an artist. And so you're either doing that or you're not really an artist. It's part of who you are. So art and love are the same thing. It's the process of seeing yourself in things that are not you. So, when you connect to someone in kind of a love relationship or in families or friends or whatever, it's the things you have in common usually that attracts you to that person, to those people. And so in your art, you can also find yourself there. Those things are not me. They're not you, but they can become part of you. And so it's kind of that same process of seeing yourself there. We're going to go through several of my pieces, and I'm going to kind of explain what they mean, because I think it helps you to understand how you can put your emotions, how you can put your own story into pieces of art. And so lots of times I kind of like to hear what you think they mean too, before I tell you what it really means. So if anybody has like some comments about what do you see when you see this piece of art, I'd love to hear them.
Freedom.
Awesome.
I think it says how much more there is to something that we just see on the surface.
Cool. Yeah, so I love both of those things, and I love learning what other people see, because sometimes I find out more about what I meant than what I realize, you know, which I think is really cool. So yeah, to me, this whole piece is the title is Release, and it's kind of about letting go of grief. And if you notice, like the whole bottom part has got that blue sort of um, moody, dark kind of tones that you kind of stuck in for a while when you go through grief. This is about a miscarriage that happened a long time ago, obviously, but it stays with you. And so the little christening dress is hanging on the tree, you know, to kind of signify the baby that I lost. And then you see the birds fly off, and the leader is a white dove. And so in all of my pieces, I always like to have a way out of the darkness. I never try to leave the viewer in that darkness. So I always, there's always a way to the light in 99.9% of my art pieces, because that's the way I believe in life. I believe that there is always light after darkness. There is always a way out. And so, but I've had other people tell me, you know, they thought it was maybe the release of addiction, you know, that they've got over, or, you know, just another kind of grief, or just a depression or whatever. Um, but there's always, you know, that relief point in my work that is like, okay, there's always hope. There's always light after the darkness. And this piece is a little bit similar. This is called Escape. But it's not nearly as dark to start with, right? Like there's already a lot of light in the whole image. And so it is just kind of maybe a floating off into a new adventure, a new unknown, starting something new. Um, and so it's kind of, this was one where I actually, this was a print competition image, and I printed it and I actually cut the image into 3 pieces and mounted each one separately, which I kind of thought was incredibly brave, because those judges could have just hated the heck out of that. You know, it ended up doing well. It was in the loan book, but sometimes I think we get stuck in being safe, and art is not about being safe. Art is about pushing boundaries, testing your limits, being brave. You have to really be brave to be an artist and to go out there on those limbs and try new things. So I encourage you to also think about, what can I do that's different that people aren't doing? You know, I didn't know anybody else that's ever cut their image into 3 pieces. So it's good to try new things, and, you know, to see where you go with them.
Toni, d- from my perspective, in the years that I've been competing, things are becoming a little bit more acceptable instead of so narrow-minded view of things. Like you say, you felt brave doing this. At one time, nobody would have entered anything like that, and now I think it's there's a wider vision of what is acceptable in print competition.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. I think judges are trying to open their minds. And I'm a real big pusher for that, because I don't want to get too far off topic, but the other day I judged for Indianapolis in the morning, and in the afternoon I went to an art center, art museum, and I was like, oh, a lot of the things we pick on are in the great works of art, right?
Absolutely.
And so I immediately posted that in our judges group, and I'm like, we need to think. You know, we do need to open our minds up to more. And so I think we're getting there. I think we're trying to get there. And I love the PPA system and print competition. It has taught me so much. But I also think we need to look outside of that and not get stuck in a certain mindset in a certain box. So there's a lot of other artwork out there. There's a lot of good artwork out there, and we need to be looking at all of it. So art is a profound mirror, always reflecting back who you truly are. Most people are petrified to take a look, but if you're brave enough, you can see right into your soul. And that's the kind of art I'm talking about. It's like the digging deep stuff, the stuff you're really dealing with. Um, and again, most people just would rather deny it. I used to call myself Cleopatra, the queen of denial. And so I'm trying to not be that anyway anymore, and to force myself to actually look at things as they are and to deal with them and to move on. And this kind of art actually helps me do that. I kind of call it kind of art therapy. Um, if I'm having a day where I'm really upset, that's the best day to sit in front of my computer. I mean, my best artwork is created when I'm sitting here bawling for 5 hours. And you get it all out and you're fine. You move on. So it's just good to kind of be brave enough to see what's in there. So this is a piece that also went into the loan book a year or two ago. And this I made during 2020 when we were all sitting home in our little dungeons, is what I call my apartment, my dungeon, because we weren't going anywhere, right? And there was a lot of darkness out there in the world and people were scared and all of that. And so this was the piece I came up with in that time. And it was all about, sharing your light with those around you. And, also a little bit of my faith in there. But it mostly just, if you've got a lantern, give it to the guy next to you. And that was kind of my way of dealing with the 2020 little crisis. So this piece here is a piece, and I'm not going to ask you what this one means to anybody else because it's too personal. This is the piece I created when my mother died. And she died in May when I was right in the middle of my crazy season, and everybody else had stuff going on in their families, and we decided to wait and hold the funeral in June. And so I didn't deal with it when it happened. But as soon as I had time to face it, this is the piece that I created. And so if you look at the tree on the left, and then underneath it is me. So the big tree is my mama, the little baby tree is me. And you go across her life and you get to where she had one little tiny leaf. She was ill for a while. She had heart failure. She could barely breathe and stuff, and she was ill for quite a while. So there wasn't much left, that she could do. There wasn't much of a life left. And then you see her cross that line, and that line has to be a definitive line. Death it's solid. It's like there's no blurring that line. And then you have new life and a new leaf and all of that. And so, again, it was my way of dealing with it, is to get it out into a piece of art. So fear destroys the expression of creativity and of emotion. So you've got to be brave and free of judgment. And that free of judgment thing, we've already talked about being brave, but that judgment thing is what stops us a lot when we're making art. We get to a point and we're like, oh, this is awful. This is never going to be anything. And we're judging ourselves, right? Before we're even done with it. And lots of times we'll put it aside. And I understand that. I do it too. I have folders of things that I've put aside, but I never delete anything because sometimes it really isn't as bad as I think, first. Secondly, if it is, someday I'm going to know how to make it better, even if I don't now. Or someday I'm going to be in the right mood to finish it. Or someday somebody else is going to come in and they're going to see something in it that's like, oh, I never thought of that. So never delete anything. Just put it in a folder of not done. These are possibles. They're not done. But we also tend to be really, really hard on ourselves as artists. We want perfection. No artist is perfect. Not even the great artists of the past. They weren't perfect either. Most of them made a whole bunch of pieces, and they're known for 5 to 10 of those pieces. But they made hundreds, right? So the fact that they kept going through all those images that weren't perfect, that's what made them great. That's what can make you great, is just to keep going and don't judge yourself before you're even done. Lots of times my work will be right before it gets good is when I really feel like it's nothing. You know, that moment where you're just about to scrap it and you try one more thing and it pulls it all together. That's the moment you have to get past that line, and I've learned that now. Don't quit on it. So I've said that most all of my work, 99%, has a way to the light. This image has no way to the light. This was me dealing with something that happened that was really bad and haunts me to this day. And so sometimes you make an image like that. This is not one I sell. No one wants this image. Why would anyone want this image? But I had to get it out before I could move on and make something else. And so sometimes what you do is just for you. It's just to get that emotion, that story that you really can't live with out so that you can move on and make something that somebody would want to hang on their wall. But you have to realize that your trauma made you stronger. Well, did it? No, my trauma made me traumatized. It made me weak. It gave me sleepless nights and memory loss. It gave me feelings I've never wanted. I made myself stronger by dragging myself out of a dark place and dealing with the consequences that weren't my fault. And so I think this is just one of the ways that I deal with them so I don't have so many sleepless nights. This was my first piece using leaves or trees or whatever. This is what started the whole thing. And it's one leaf. It's one of those leaves that you can buy them like in craft stores, and I don't know what they do to them, but they're see-through now. They've bleached them or put them through some process that you can like see through the whole leaf. And it's actually just one leaf. That was important to the story. But I made changes in the leaf because I was entering an imprint competition and I knew the judges would say, well, it looks like she just cloned the same thing over again. So that was a little bit of a sellout. But for my purposes, for the story I was trying to tell, there is that center leaf. And then it's like the angel and the devil sitting on the shoulders. There's always a dark side. There's always a light side to everything. And I believe we're always pulled to the light. So if you look at this image, we're always going from darkness to light. And that was kind of the story that I was trying to tell with that one. It went into the loan book, but it started me to, yeah.
What's the title of it?
This one is Between Darkness and Light. That's the title.
Thank you.
And it's what started the whole thing about leaves and trees for me. I realized after I made this that they were a vehicle for me to tell stories with, which I had never thought of before. And this was also made about 2020, I think. Again, it's a loan image. And this has hidden meaning to me. I mean, if you look at it, you just think, oh, it's a nice, peaceful little beach scene. And it is. It's a nice, peaceful little beach scene. A lot of people put this in their bedrooms. It's just a nice thing to wake up to. But I also always include hidden meanings sometimes for me. And there's been a whole lot of all this political discord in our country anymore. And I love everybody. That's just who I am. I love everybody. I love people. And I hate all that political discord kind of thing, all the fighting, all the name calling. I don't like that. It's not me. It's not what I believe in. So I took these birds, and two of these birds are from the East Coast and one is from the West Coast. And I put them in the same image. And it was my way of saying to myself, I just want to bring the country together. So again, a hidden little meaning that nobody else is going to see. I know nobody's going to get that story, but I know it's there. And again, a lot of my art is made for me. I'm happy if somebody else likes it, but it's made for me. So a great photograph is full of expression of what one feels about what is being photographed in the deepest sense, and is thereby a true expression of what one feels about life in its entirety. And I had never heard this Ansel Adams quote, but that is what I bring to my art. I bring to it what I feel about life. Not just about my life, but what I feel about all life, about other people, all of that. And when you stop to think about it, you're creating a legacy every time you make a piece of art, whether it's for a client or for yourself. That is what you're leaving this earth with, right? Most of the other stuff that you do or you buy or whatever, no one's going to care about. But the legacy you leave in your art is there. It's what you're leaving this world with. And so it's important. Every piece of art you create is important. They're not all going to be a great, museum quality piece of art, but it's what could lead you to a great museum quality piece of art. And so you need to give it your all, no matter whether it's for a client or it's for you, whatever it is. Every time think, this is part of my legacy. Am I doing it justice? And this is my best-selling piece of art ever. I've sold more of these than anything else I've ever made. And I think because people think it's just cute and fun and lighthearted, and a lot of dance schools have it in their, displayed in their office or, someplace that the kids walk by or whatever. And I do a lot of dancers. I do 1,400 dancers in the next 6 weeks. So dance is a big part of how I make money, but it's also something that I love. I mean, they create pictures with their bodies, one right after the other. It's so full of artistic expression, and they work so hard on getting that into every little movement. So dance is something that I love. I used to be a florist. Flowers is something that I love. And so I kind of married those together. And this is Florabella Ballet School. And most people think it's just a lighthearted piece, but I'm Toni. I don't ever just make something, or very seldom just make something that doesn't also tell a story to me. And so if you look at these images, we have our teacher here. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So we have our teacher here. She's the head of the class. And then we have this little flower down here that cannot even stand, right? But it's still beautiful. And then we have this little flower here that seems to be perfect, and everybody thinks she's perfect, but we don't know what she struggles with because everybody struggles with something, right? And then we have these two little flowers that only have one leg, and yet they can pirouette and spin around with the best of them. And we have this little flower here, and she's a little on the chunky side, and everybody tells her, oh, you don't have the body to be a dancer. You shouldn't be a dancer. You can't dance. She didn't care. She's out there anyway. And then we have this little leaf up here that has ADD, and she's not doing anything the teacher's telling her to do, but look at her fly. Look at her soar. And so I try to put what I believe to my core into a simple little lighthearted piece. And that is, everybody has a place in this world, right? And it doesn't matter what you can't do. It only matters what you can do. And so, I try to put that in there. And when I have gifted this to some of my dance schools, the ones I really love, and I've put a little plaque beside it that tells that story, that everybody has a place. Because I want those kids to know that. And so probably of all my pieces, this one, to my knowledge, has not a lot of meaning. If it does have a lot of meaning, I haven't really discovered it yet. It was just kind of an exercise of how can I marry my love of leaves and twigs with a human? And so it was kind of more of a practice exercise. It went into the loan book, and I like it, but if it has a real deep meaning, I haven't found it yet. And sometimes I don't find them for years, right? Or sometimes somebody else has to tell me what it's all about. But it was a really good practice exercise for me to work in compositing, to put those leaves so that they go into the hair and not that they're just floating out there, things like that. It was when I first kind of started doing my master artist stuff. This is an image from last year, and it did merit, it did not go alone. Some people, Tom Rouse really loved this, other people really did not like it at all. I've been studying a lot of like Degas and other artists and trying to up my game as far as my art knowledge goes. And this was a dancer that I brought into the studio to do some, just kind of stuff for me with. And I wanted that whole impressionistic feeling. I think I got it. She loved it. Her parents loved it. Some of the artists that or photographers I know love it, and others just like, yeah, that's blurry. But I've passed the point of, yes, I do want to do good in print competition, but I've already proven myself to a point where now I get to do what I want to do. And if they don't love it, I really kind of don't care. I really still want to enter what I want. And I'm trying to open the minds of some judges too, to realize there are other styles out there that we need to be aware of. And that's a big part of why I enter, is to maybe push the boundaries a little bit more open, push a door open, push a window open, and to just really enter what I love and not really care anymore. So this is an exercise that if you've never done this, you need to do this. You need to have an artist statement. You may need to have 2 or 3 artist statements. But it's a very insightful thing to write these 3 little paragraphs. I spent 3 days studying my work to write these 3 paragraphs. I'm like, what am I about? What's in all these images that ties them together? What's my process? And so from the fairy tale stories and imaginations of my youth, I bring to my work a sense of timelessness and beauty, where women are the quiet heroes of their own story and children exist in sweet innocence. I'm inspired by leaves, twigs, and flowers, so nature often peacefully invades my images of people or tells its own emotional stories in my botanical images. Each image evolves from my imagination through costuming and design, or the gathering of leaves and flowers, to camera, and then is carefully crafted through digital compositing, textures, and often digital painting to bring my dreams to life. Now, I would not post this on the part of my website where I'm trying to get seniors, because that doesn't say I photograph men at all, boys at all. And I do, I photograph more boy seniors than girls. This says that I'm all about women and children. So you would have different artist statements for different parts of your business, unless you're only doing one thing. And there are, if you look on the internet, there are places that tell you what should go into an artist statement, kind of how you feel about your work, what kind of stories you tell, what's in your work, and kind of how you can get, like through compositing and painting and stuff like that. I'm much more of a Photoshop person than a just take an image, boom, it's done. Now I do that for clients, obviously, but I tend to have lots of files of people that I brought in, models that I do lots of different things because I don't know where I'm going to go. When I need a model, when I'm in the mood to make something, there's not one here. So I just have these files. I shoot everything a little bit on the flat side because I can change that in post, because I don't know which way the light's going to come in my final image most of the time, because I'm putting that together later. So I take I have files and files of twigs and leaves and flowers, and files of models in different costumes that I can then just put together when I'm in the mood. I'm also really inspired by angels. You will see a lot of angels in my work. I love the purity and the beauty, the classicalness of the angel type images. And they're very peaceful to paint. I could paint an angel any day of the week and be happy. So you'll see a lot of those. And I love, if you look at my work, I like soft pastel tones. I'm not a dark person, as far as I don't hardly ever do low key work. And not really traditional high key either. I'm more of a pastel kind of person. That's more of the clothing that I wear normally. It's just kind of those are the colors that feed my soul. And so, take a look and ask yourself, why am I using certain colors? What do they mean to me? What am I trying to say by using those colors? I think pastels are peaceful. I want more peace on this earth, so everything you do ties to who you are. Another angel image, both of these went loan last year or the year before, I get confused. Um, Painting feathers are really fun. Feathers and grass, if you're having a day where you're really uptight, paint feathers and paint grass. You can just sit there and just keep the little whacking pin moving while you think about everything else that is going on, and you just get relaxed. So they're really great things to paint when you're having those stressful days. This little girl, I think, is gorgeous. But her mouth is way bigger than most people's mouth. And I've entered her a couple of times, and some judge will always say, yeah, something's wrong with her mouth. And it kills me because she's kind of got that Julia Roberts kind of mouth, which is classically beautiful, but it's not normal. We need to stop as judges, and I'm sorry if any of them are listening, but we need to stop trying to put everybody in a box, and I refuse to fix it to make it unreal for them. If they're not going to like it because of that, I don't care. I'm entering her as she is. I think she's one of the most beautiful children I have ever seen. But she doesn't fit the box, which is what makes her beautiful. Just like Julia Roberts, the fact that she doesn't look like everyone else is what makes her beautiful. When you make art that's not like everybody else, it's what makes your art beautiful. We need to stop trying to be the same artist. We need to be our own artist. And that is about the only thing that I see wrong with the PPA system is we try to make everybody in the image of this certain thing. It's not that it's not, and I said that wrong. It's not that PPA is trying to do that. But because people are trying to do what did well last year in print competition, we are doing it to ourselves. We are trying to become each other instead of trying to be who we are. And so, we need to, again, do all of that, do print competition, go to the classes, do everything that you're being told to do through this whole system. You have a great organization in your state. Support it. Do the things that they're telling you to do and become part of it and learn and go to their classes. Do all of that. But after you do that, also look elsewhere. Go to an art museum. If you have none in your area, get on the internet. Everything's available to everyone now. Go to an art fair. Go to a gallery. Make friends with somebody who's a potter or a painter or any kind of artist. If you hang out with them, you are going to get better at what you do. Guaranteed. Happens every time. So just, when I look at her lips, that's what I see. Don't be the same as everybody else. Be your own beautiful self. Again, the fairies and angels, I love them. I love wings. I love flowers, plants, trees, all of that. This little girl was just adorable. This is a dress that I keep in my studio. I have a little client closet. Doesn't have a ton of stuff in it. I have my daughter's prom dresses in there. Lots of times mothers of seniors will bring a girl in and I have it hanging where they have to walk by it. It's a beautiful princess style dress. I paid like $500 for it. I'm going to use it. So they have to walk by that to get to the dressing room. And almost every time the mom would say, I wish you had brought something like that. And I don't say anything then, but when we're all done doing the stuff that they brought, I asked the girl, I'm like, your mom would love to have something of you just all dressed up. Let's have a tea party. Let's just have fun. Let's play dress up. Your mom will get a blast out of this. And most of them do it. And it's fun. So I have this for little kids too. Again, because most people bring you the things that are not really photogenic, right? They bring you the big plaids and polka dots and all the whatever's currently popular, and all you can see is the clothes. And so I always do what they brought first. And then I say, do you want to be an angel? Do you want to wear this princess dress? I have crowns, I have feathers, I have wings, I have everything. And we just play dress up for a while, because not only does that then mean that we're going to have fun and that kid's going to remember me for being a fun person the next time they come in, and the mom's going to remember how much fun they have. When they come back and they see the images, they're going to have the clothes that they brought. They're also going to have these. I probably just doubled or tripled my sales, because they're going to want a bigger one of this than they are of the ones that they brought. So just a little sales tip. I'm not the best in sales, but I do know if you make people cry or you give them other options, you sell more. So I always try to make them cry, and I always try to give them other options than what they planned on. So again, this is the same dress that was in that last one. I just, I do different things to it in Photoshop to make it look a little bit different. But again, it's hanging here. We do an image, I cut her out, I can put her anywhere. This is a beach down by South Carolina, which ASP is taking a trip down there next year. If you're an ASP member or a guest of one, you can join us. We're going to have a really great week there. So we're all different and we're all imperfect, and the imperfections are what make each of us and our work interesting. Like I said, there is no perfect artwork. There are little flaws in all of it. But those imperfections is maybe what makes it yours. Maybe what makes it interesting. And again, Rick Rubin, my favorite writer. We're going to just hit this really lightly today. So AI is the thing that everybody's talking about, this artificial intelligence. And I'm just going to give you a quick 2 cents about what I think about it. I think, yes, it could be fun to play with. I think, yes, it's doing some really creative, fun things. Am I a fan? No, I'm not. For one, I feel like it's kind of stealing from the artists that made the original work. For two, what I care about art is what the artist is trying to say. I care that you are in your art. I care about that you're showing me your emotions. I don't care what a robot thinks. I don't. I don't care that the robot, as far as I know, has no feelings yet, as of yet. I also am very scared as to where all this can go, because I've read a lot of things that people that are making these programs realize that there's going to come a day when they can't control them. Right now, it's really great because these AI bots are becoming better than our doctors at diagnosing us, and they can find cancer, they just said yesterday morning, earlier than anything else can. And there's a lot of great things happening. But we're teaching them to take over. And I know that sounds like some doomsday movie, but the thing is, right now, we are the dominant animal on this planet. And when we see an ant, we're just as likely to squish it as we are to let it go on about its business, right? What happens when those robots decide that, people don't always do the right thing, right? We all screw up. Every one of us has screwed up. So what happens when they decide that people are not good for this planet? It's something that we all need to think about, is what it's scary. I'm not worried about my lifetime. I'm worried about my grandkids' lifetime, but we're supporting something that could be the genie out of the bottle, and the people that are making the genie are the ones that are warning about this. So maybe we need to listen to them. There's my little 2 cents about AI. But what if we took those same series of words that we're typing into AI to come up with an image, and we just list those same words and we think about it? Our brains are super creative. We can make our own. We can come up with our own images from just typing those words out to turn our brains on. So even in art, literature and art, no man who bothers about originality will ever be original. Whereas if you simply try to tell the truth without caring two pence, how often it's been told before, you will 9 times out of 10 become original without ever having noticed it. The more you try to be creative, the harder it is to be creative. You can try and try and try. But if you just sit down and you say, what do I want to say today? What do I want to tell the world? What's in my heart? What's on my mind? What's been bothering me? And you make art that says that, I guarantee you it's going to be original because nobody else can make that art. Only you can. You have the voice that only you have. And no matter what tools you use to create, the true instrument is you. Doesn't matter if you're a songwriter or a painter or a photographer, you are the instrument. Your heart is what matters. And so, boy, I hate having to rush through this. There's so much more in my program that I normally give, but 45 minutes isn't long enough. But I'm going to say now, I'm going to go into some current pieces. And so I know this is being taped. So if you are a PPA approved juror, I would really appreciate if you didn't look at the rest of this program. There's just like 4 images here that are current images. So wait till next year. I don't want you to have to DQ. Thank you. So this is probably the favorite image I've ever made. And I made this about the 1st of January this year. And I didn't know what it meant when I made it. I started out with the thought of sometimes you have to put the past to death to move on to the future. That was kind of my original premise, but it became something more. And I realize now that this was kind of a foreshadowing of things to come in my life. It was kind of either it was a foreshadowing, where my heart or my brain knew that this kind of stuff was going to come into my life, or it actually called it into my life from the universe. But this is all about coming back to life. This is all about, really wonderful new things happening to me that I had never thought were possible for me anymore. And so this is called the womb. So it's no longer about death. It's about a rebirth and a blooming and a coming back to the light again. So, maybe someday I can share the whole story with you. But anyway, that's kind of what this piece is all about. This piece won the ASP Best of Show this year, and it's done well. But for me, what matters is the story that it told my heart, right? That's always what matters to me. It's like, what am I telling? But I've never had a piece that foreshadowed something that had not happened yet. That's kind of cool for me. I don't know, if that's going to happen again or not, but that was really cool. This is another one that's in this year's print competition. And this is all about being in someone or something's heart, and if you will see, her arms are wide open. She's very accepting of it's not an entrapment. It's more of an enchantment. It's more about accepting the love the universe is giving her, or, just it's just all about that good feeling of belonging. And so that's that one. And then again, another angel image. I just really love the piece. I guess it's just what I want for everyone. I want this kind of peace in everyone's life, this beauty, this softness. I'm tired of the ugliness of this world. And so I think I keep over and over creating this soft beauty peace sort of theme going on because that's what I want for the world. And then these are a couple of my artist images this year, and nothing really to brag about. They're scoring as merits every time, not super high merits, but I'm trying to push myself into different directions. And so when I was in kindergarten or first grade, I think it was first grade, my teacher told me I couldn't draw. And so I didn't try again until I was 62 years old before I had to draw a heart for the title for the slide that I started my program with. That was from a print competition image, and I had to have a heart in that image. And the only way to put a heart in there was to draw it, because I can't cut somebody open and take a picture of their heart. I have no access to hearts. So I had to draw it. And so ever since that, I have made it my goal to have at least one major hand-drawn element in a print competition image every year, because I want to push myself. I'm no longer concerned with what the judges say as much as, am I growing? Or am I saying what I want to say to the world? So, the dragon is hand drawn and started from scratch and became a dragon. And to me, for the little girl that can't draw, not bad. Not great. It's not great yet, but I'm getting there. I'm working at it. I'm trying, right? And so, what are you pushing yourself to do that you couldn't do yesterday or last year or 5 years ago? Hopefully it's something. Hopefully you're moving and not stagnant, because you can do so much more than you ever thought you could do. And so I am going to do a little plug for our Epiphany. That's Judy is very kindly hosting for us in July. I'm super excited to be going there. I think this is going to be the closest one to maybe some of you guys. I don't know if you guys know Arthur Rainville. He is magic. He's become such a mentor to me, teaching me so much. And he retired once, and he's back out of retirement now for just a few years. We're doing a whole series of these workshops around the country. We have 7 or 8 of them planned for this year, and probably we'll do about the same number next year. If you really want to be inspired, if you really want to learn about who you are and how to take emotional portraits and how to really become an artist, you need to see him before he goes back into retirement again. He's pretty amazing, and I'll be there too. This was just a little tiny segment of my program. We didn't get into any of what the colors mean in art. We didn't get into any of, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get emotion into your work. And we just kind of took a little brief glimpse of some of my work, but there's a whole lot more there to teach you. So, if you have any interest in, my contact info is here, or you can contact Judy. She knows all about it too, and love to have you there.